Bitcoin has flashed a little bit of a worrying signal, which usually marks panic, not euphoria, by the way. And at the same time, people are getting excited about rebrand, token burns, and supply narratives, which is a bit of a problem. And this is why retail, and I've seen it before in the past, get it terribly wrong. So today I want to showcase data, information, price behavior, what matters, and why you should look at the psychology more than the real trade itself, because I can't get my head around how everyone is turbo bullish when we've got no trend. I don't get it. I just don't. Let's talk about it. Now on the screen, let's talk about this bit because this bit's fun. Bitcoin faces critical do or die, and it is a realistic do or die sort of situation here. And I saw this doing the rounds on X yesterday about the RSI and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, we could talk about historic levels of being oversold and stuff, but the reality is here, every single thing, and stick around, I'll showcase technical analysis because something happened yesterday and it really, I think it scared people talk about this, because when we talk about stuff like this, and yeah, you could talk about Duma evidence for the 4-year cycle and the market top. And at the minute, I feel like we are starting to bring that real big obvious structure points in play, and I'll talk about it. And that's it. We're cooked, basically, right? Because when we talk about obviously drawdowns and where we are, it's going to take a hell of a move for this to change. And that's the thing. Historically, we are, I think, near exhaustion now. We've already had it. We're kind of, every single rally gets sold into, and that's a big problem. So we need to talk about that situation. There's a lot of things happening here. And we could talk about all these articles and all these kind of stuffs and situations around the past. And the big thing is, a lot of this is looking a bit worrying. The problem is, people hear 180k and they think it's going to happen. We failed with going to 150k, in my opinion. I don't think that's going to change. But unless something genuinely changes, because there's no momentum, there's nothing. And obviously, yes, you can change your bias pretty quickly. But we need a trend. We need something to happen. We're in a downtrend and people just don't admit it. So as much as like signals don't really predict, you know, there is an element of like truth to probability here. We're in a honking downtrend. So we need to be very, very, very careful of it. And yeah, you could talk about, is the 4-year cycle dead? You could probably argue potentially yes, especially the fact that all of this information around obviously the quantitative easing, quantitative tightening, all that kind of narrative around that, the interest rates are in relatively high at the minute. It's a bit of an issue. And remember when everyone was talking about, oh, just follow the M2? That worked, didn't it? So yeah, ignore influencers that are talking about that. I think we are in a sticky situation. Capitulation signals don't mean buy everything, by the way. They don't. They just mean selling pressure that scares people into not buying. But you need to buy the right levels, not just buy because, oh, it's a little bit cheaper and I might make some money. That's where you start getting into some horrible drawdown, because I think if things go wrong, it will go majorly wrong. Yeah. My biggest worry is who's in the White House at the minute. He's very, very mental with certain things that he does in his policies, and he already wants to do aggressive rate cuts. That does not guarantee anything, by the way, if you're wondering. Another thing we could talk about is obviously hyper liquid, which is pretty decent in certain points, but they are raising $1 billion in token supply, but the market is still punishing the wrong metric. Now, this is the thing, right? A lot of people talk about certain things around fundamentals, token burns, instant bullish price action. Yay, market is still punishing participant and liquidity, not supply, obviously here, because we got to look at the situation here. Who's participating? A lot lower than what it was, right? Yeah, it is. This is the same, mechanics and mistakes that we always get into, right? Basically, the narrative versus structure. This is in a pretty horrible downtrend now. It's done well, but now it's not doing as well. And even here, you can see as a result, you can see the bullish periods. The volume has barely moved here. But the reality is, if certain things have changed in terms of the fundamentals of it, it's going to be an issue. This does not mean it's going to go to the moon because they've just changed something. Supply stories always feel good. Markets care about who is actually genuinely using the thing. And that's the thing. And we could talk about, the burn. Cool. And against the backdrop, hyper foundations move to burn. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. I don't think it's going to go up, to be honest with you. I think it's just going to be one of those same situations that's, it just drops and drops and drops. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. I've not fully read it, but my point is, don't get caught out by the wrong headlines. Okay, read it, do your research, understand it. And when you start seeing stuff like that, like a 10-year growth situation, that's where it kind of scares me when you start looking at, obviously you can see the annual fees here, you can see the total supply chain, all that kind of stuff, the burning from the fees and that. Yeah, I get it. But what if people stop using it? It becomes a bit of a problem. You can see at the bottom there, market capitalization. Look at the changes. Yeah. Dilution. And let's talk about Polkadot. It's been a while, hasn't it? I cannot believe this has happened, by the way. Like, totally random. I don't hold Polkadot. I sold it quite a while ago now. I was a massive Polkadot bull, but ultimately, it was just far too complicated. No one was really interested. The price has now dropped a lot. But obviously, rebrands spark attention and they don't sustain kind of, obviously, demand for obvious reasons. Social excitement is always good. Look at that tweet. I mean, 25,000 views. A lot of people interested in it. I just talked about one token that I talked about a long, long time ago. And this is usually how you can quietly build a bit of optimism, but ultimately it doesn't really pan out. So yeah, try not to get too caught out in this. It's often a lagging indicator, just saying. Now, the final thing to talk about, retail excitement and stupid accounts that do my tits in completely. Stuff like that. Just broke $90,000. Well, guess what happened? Well, we died after that, literally. Like, talk about trying to get hype and trying to get views. A lot of people use the likes of X and sustained information like this to basically just make money on X and stuff like that. It doesn't really work. And as I say, if you're following the wrong people, you are going to get really, really destroyed. Because when we talk about Bitcoin, for example, and just to go back on yesterday, the 15-minute time frame echoes this perfectly. Look at the state of it. Wow. So when we talk about how that is a honking move, well, it bloody is, right? So just be mindful of that. But yeah, for me, we need to be careful here. My honest opinion is very, very simple. We are really struggling in and around that red box. Basically, we've rejected it a few times. We can't even get above the EMA21 at the minute. That's a bit of an issue. I've just turned it on recently just to showcase some stuff. And yeah, it's just like holding everything down. That's it. Key levels, trend buyers. We are bearish and there's nothing to change that. And I often talk about, you need a dollar cost average over the course of time, gradually just nibble in, and that's fine. But buy the right dip is also very, very important. I think buying these dips here is probably not really the risk to reward realistically isn't really worth it unless you've sold the absolute top at $125,000, $126,000. That's just my personal thoughts though. When we talk about the Ethereum BTC bet, it is still looking pretty shit. Even this, a bit of a pull to the upside on Thursday. Yeah, nothing great, last week, and then we just nuked. If we lose this level around here, it's going to look pretty ugly, especially for the Bitcoin dominance. That'll probably go a lot higher. So yeah, not a lot really happening in the world of Ethereum neither, which is a bit of an issue. And again, we can talk about why that looks important. It's because Bitcoin dominance is now at 60% again. This is starting to go up. Feels like the rotation's continuing. Risk on, risk off. Yeah, it's more risk off at the minute completely. And that macro environment, which I will talk about in a minute, is looking very, very interesting. I'm going to showcase something really funny in a minute, and just bear with me. Before I do that, obviously this is a situation around the stable currency dominances. It's going higher. That means basically people are probably more likely selling out now and staying in stable currencies, and there's not much demand for that, which is a big, big, big problem. But shall we have a bit of a giggle? Because the big, big update yesterday, or whatever day it was, yeah, it was yesterday, Coinbase have just, stocks? So yeah, stock market, prediction markets, and a load of DEX assets, which are fair enough, but trade stocks? What? Everyone in the world of crypto wanted to not trade stocks on their brokers, and now this is what we're forced with. So as much as I invest in stocks, yeah, great, but on crypto apps? Makes you wonder, that is a bit bearish in my opinion, because are they trying to get some money here? Are they worrying? How many people, right? And I talked about this before in previous videos, if you've been watching, how many people have dived out of crypto and gone into the stock market? Look at the FTSE 100, for example. It's doing really well over the last couple of years. Obviously, you can argue a lot of things around the world of the S&P. Yeah, everything is bullish apart from crypto. 2025 has been a horrible year for crypto. Let me showcase it. Because over the course of the year here below, you can see it. It's pretty ugly, I know. Long story short, if you invested in any of those assets, you would have won versus Bitcoin. That was over the last year. So we have struggled. We did well for a bit, throughout most of it, and then all of a sudden died off a bit. And a lot of this is probably to do with how volatile the ETFs are. It has been pretty crazy. There's a lot of inflows yesterday, then we had dived off a little bit. But that's the thing. It is pretty weird at the minute. And I don't think people like it. And this is why video views are down. This is why everyone's like not that interested. And obviously you got capitulations and breakouts, and you got, burns and all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff. Obviously rebrands and trend reversals in that situation about products. And then you got Coinbase offering stocks. People are trying to reinvent the wheel. But the one thing that I will say, and going on to all these kind of stocks, and obviously Amazon, Apple, AMD, whatever you want to look at, people want certainty. Markets offer probability, right? We all know that the earnings of a lot of these companies are doing well. That's fine. Retail chases narratives when structure is unclear, though, right? They're always looking to guess for these little things. This is why crypto is interesting, because you can kind of get a broad brush with it. You can buy, say, oracles and do all right. You can buy certain things, do it when the time is right. But when you talk about the stock market, it's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? Obviously. So when we look at the likes of Polkadot, look at this narrative. It's just like, where's this going to go? And even on my X post, I've got people saying it's going to go $20. When? Why? How? What? When? Do you know something I don't know? Smart money will always wait for confirmation. It's not try and buy randomly on a whim because they think it's going to happen. So just be mindful of that. But yeah, genuinely, every single cycle, there is a moment where data says one thing, price says another, and everything else is just kind of filled in the gaps with your own emotion. I mean, at some points in the last year or so, even 4 or 5 months ago, I was pretty convinced we were going to get another leg up with Bitcoin. We failed. It happened. Luckily, I took some money off the table at the right times, but ultimately, the goal is to survive in any market. If you're not surviving, you're probably doing it wrong. You need to understand that buying as low as you possibly can and being able to take some profit is the bread and butter. Everything else is just noise. If you're interested in exclusive videos, a private Discord, course material, portfolio updates and trades and all that kind of good stuff, and especially myself, I will be trading more and you'll be able to see what my frameworks are and how I'm doing it. I'm currently recording a lot of course content. There's a link below. Jump in. You can watch the videos for £6. Not a lot. So there you go. I hope you enjoy. I hope you have a good weekend as well. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? I'm keen to know, genuinely am. And if you like this sort of stuff, leave a like, obviously. For me, the biggest problem is too many people are getting excited about realistically a downtrend right now. It's obviously very bearish, but I think a lot of people aren't really, confirming to themselves that, oh, actually, we might actually be in a pretty bearish period here. So be mindful. Anyways, if you've not yet done so, watch this video. Another one about how to kind of predict certain things. It's a good one, that one, to be fair.